All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Tuesday, September 16th of 2025. We had some Monday night football action last night with a very late game. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We do have some WNBA and some MLB today, so still playing DFS to play while football is off. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS-related questions. Get your questions in one of three ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there's a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do the show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then we do the show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days, get your questions answered. All right, Andy said, afternoon, everybody. What is going on, Andy? Let's get SaberSim pulled up. We had plenty of questions come in prior to the show, so we will start there and then answer any more questions that are coming in live. First question today, how does modifying my projections impact the ROI calculation on Sims I'm trying to generate based on performing above the 50th percentile? Okay, kind of two questions in one here. We'll answer them one at a time. So if, first off, let's talk about my projections, right? Modifying the my projection value actually directly impacts the ROI of your lineups. So first off, the way that modifying projections impacts your lineup building, right? We'll start there first. Say Wilson here, right? 51. We'll say a 51 projection. Just keep the whole numbers. If I change her to 54, right? I give her a 3-point increase. Well, every time she scores 40, she now scores 43. Every time she scores 60, she now scores 63, right? So like if you look at her distribution here, we're basically taking it and shifting it over. So we're maintaining the same range of outcomes and frequencies of events, but we are accounting for your mean projection difference kind of on top of that. So you get the SaberSim range of outcomes, you get your mean kind of on top of it, right? So that's what's happening. Say that again, she does better, right? She's going to come in more lineups. Her floor is higher. Her ceiling is higher. So that'll just generally lead to more lineup exposure when building lineups. Now, as far as simming goes, we're also going to take into account your change in the contest sim. So like when we contest sim, right, we're pulling one sim of each game on the slate. Well, we're still accounting for that increase in the sims. So let's say you were in 10th place in the sim, but after we account for your projection difference, you might bump up to 6th place, right? Like 3 points can kind of move the needle a lot. So now that lineup made more money. Now the ROI in that sim is higher, and then that happens for every contest sim. So we are adding your difference to her totals in the contest sims that we're running. And then that in turn affects the standings, which in turn affects the ROI of the lineups with that player. Now, the only place where we do not account for your custom projection changes or changes to projections in the My Proj is going to be in contest flashback. So in contest flashback, the projections that are being used are solely the SaberSim baseline projections. So just one important note or kind of caveat there that you might see a lower sim average. Your sim ROI might be lower on average than some other users if you're using custom projections, if you're changing a lot of things because your optimized are based on you being right, but then SaberSims are based on the SaberSim baseline. So kind of got to understand and be honest with yourself about, hey, how accurate are my changes? Am I adding value? Are they right more than they're wrong, right? I think it's really important to kind of track those things so you can know if you're actually helping yourself. And then if you are right, 60, 70% of the time, well, then I think you just kind of take the sim ROI results with a grain of salt. It's like, yeah, I know I'm a little low, but I know what I'm doing is working and worthwhile, so I want to continue to do that. All right, second part of the question, I'm trying to generate based on performing above the 50th percentile. So in case you guys didn't know, we have these lineup percentile sorting options. So there's two types of percentiles, right? There's player percentiles, which you see here in the app, basically describing this range of outcomes, right? You can see it, but the percentiles are like, hey, you know, Wilson scores 74 points 1% of the time, scores 60 points 15% of the time, which was like the 85th, right? Those are player by player. A lineup percentile, what this does, and I'll just show it here, this percentile section, this describes the lineup as a whole, right? So like, for instance, if you want to look at 99th percentiles, you shouldn't add up every player's 99th, because that's a 1% chance for Wilson, and then a 1% chance for the next player, a 1% chance. All of a sudden, the odds of that are extremely low, right? But what we do is, after we build the lineups, we go back into the Sims, and then we say, hey, as a group, give me a distribution for these players together. And then we effectively get like a graph, a range of outcomes for the lineup as a whole. So then now the lineup's 99th percentile is the outcome that happens together 1% of the time. Now that's a lot more likely to occur. You play 150 lineups, well, you know, mathematically, like, hey, 1.5 lineups are going to have, you know, their 99th percentile outcome, right? And then you could actually see those, like we scroll over here. Okay, so we're saying this lineup as a whole, right? This first lineup scores 217.3 points 1% of the time. And then you can see the percentiles for every single lineup that we have here, right? Notice that the higher ROI ones tend to be the higher percentile ones. Now, as far as the question, I'm trying to optimize based on 50th percentile. You can actually sort by that, right? So like, let's say I wanted to make a group. You know, maybe you're playing cash games, double up, something like that. Okay, I have my lineups group. Switch diversity to uniques. That'll give you the ability to change the sorting metric. So then I change my rank by from ROI to 50th percentile. Now I'm optimizing for the lineups with the highest 50th percentile, right? I can come in here, it's sorted by 50th, and it's giving me the highest there, and then the second, the third, the fourth, right? So uniques 1, 50th percentile is another really good option. All right, good start there. Next question, does the new profit plan apply to all sports or only NFL? Good question. So yes, it does apply to all sports. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out lesson 3 of the Saber system right here. It's about like the 6-minute mark. You can catch that segment, which is this cheat sheet. Now, the only thing to be aware of is that contests in NFL are just naturally bigger than like any other sport. So the one thing you might need to change is this effective entrance one, right? This says greater than 300. Basically what you want to do is you kind of want to just open these up slowly. So like start with this framework, right? Entry fee less than $3, effective entrance greater than 300. First place is greater than your daily wager. And then you fill them highest effective. I'm not at the amount that I want to, you know, play on this slate, entry fee wise. Okay, well, try lowering effective entrance, right? Try 200, try 100. If you have to, right? Play entry fee or play contests where the top prize is less than your wager, right? Play contests where maybe you have to open up the entry fee, right? Maybe you have to go up to $4 to $5, right? So start here and then kind of break open the, you know, kind of like guidelines or guardrails like as you need to, right? But I would first start with lowering the effective entrance. I think if you could play as many contests under $3, this would probably be the last one I would do. So I would, you know, be more open to playing contests where first place is less than my daily wager before playing contests above $3. So just some notes there. But yes, it does apply to all sports. Just kind of got to move it around a little bit sometimes. All right, next question for MLB today. I have a 150 max GPP, a single entry, 13 cash and double up entries. Should I make 3 different groups, select one at a time, and do 1 build per group? Could you go over this process, please? Okay, so specifically, I want to talk about the group part first, or no, the build part first. You should only do different builds if you have different ideas about how you want to play each contest. So like the most common reason for doing different builds would be, hey, I want to use 1 player pool for this set of contests, and then I want to use another player pool for another set of contests, or I want to use these rules for my 20 maxes, and I want to use these rules like for my single entries, right? Or like certain stacks in different ones, right? You see this like in football. So those are the main reasons to use different builds. If you don't feel that way and you're like, I'm good with the player pool, I'm good with, no rules or all my rules applying to all my contests or anything like that, right? Keep it all in one build. If you did that, then I would just use different templates. Like what I would do is, let's see, these are different ones I was using. Hold up. Let's get out of that. Let's try that again. Oops. We're just letting Saver Sim load back up. All right, let's go to another build. Okay. All right, cool. So we're back. Baseline build. So the 2 templates that you're going to have by default, right? The single entry and the 1 per contest. The 1 per contest basically is creating a group for each contest that you have more than 1 entry in. And then the single entry one is creating a group for all of your contests where it's grouping all your single entries together. Okay? These 2 are going to cover the 150 max and the single entry. Now it's just about creating a group for the cash. So like I would effectively turn these 2 on, and then I would have a third one for cash. Now you kind of got to, we'll talk about this. We've got to write like some different rules and stuff. So what I would say is create a group for all of my contests where type is cash, and maybe name, or actually let's use or. Type is cash, or name includes double. So sometimes we're not going to have your cash contest by default in the contest page. So they'll come across as custom. So we want to account for that, right? So I'm just going to assume that it's either coming in as cash or it's coming in as custom, and then those are double ups, right? Okay. So this would cover my cash. Now, the other thing I want to do, right, is because now I'm using one for cash and double ups, right? Well, then now I need to exclude those from these other ones. So what I would say is, okay, 1 per contest where my entries is greater than 1 and type is not cash and name does not include double, right? I need to basically exclude those so they don't get double created. Okay, this is an issue some people run into where they have templates trying to create 2 different groups for the same contest because their templates are written a certain way. And then I would also need to do it for my singles. Okay, my entries equals 1 and type is not cash. And then I would do it again, and name does not include double. Now I'm covered, right? I could have maybe done it different where I would have just said like type is GPP. That's like another way I could consider doing it, right? But this was just the first one that came to mind. There's a lot of customization with the templates that you can chop it up different ways. You can do it one way, you can do it another way. Tomato, right? It's all good. So, but this is the way I thought of. So like single entries, I like to rename this just, I don't know, 2+ lineups. Makes a little more sense to me. So then I have like my single entries, my contest with 2 or more lineups, and then my cash. So that's how I would set it up. All in one build. You upload your entry file. As long as you start these, they auto create on future uploads. If you're already here, then you go and upload, just select them, and then make sure they're all selected, and then they'll all populate. All right. Next question, is it possible to random fill using Portfolio Plus? For example, if I have 300 lineups in my pool that I feel are similar for a 150 entry tournament, but just want additional diversity, could you show how to do this? Thanks. Okay, so you can't do this technically in SaberSim. So let's say, you're playing a 150 max, you want to pool from 300 lineups. You can download the 300 lineups, right? Like in a group, if I have like a group here, when the lineups are built, this download icon is going to be activated, right? So like, let's say it's a 150. Let's say it defaults to 150, right? Okay, well, I can just come in and change this to 300. It'll re-diversify. I can download the lineups. And honestly, you could probably just like throw your lineup file in ChatGPT and just like explain what you want. Like, hey, columns A through H are lineups. Like each row is a different lineup based on player ID. Give me 150 randomly. And it'll give you 150 randomly, but then you're going to have to copy and paste that back into your entry file. So it will take like a little bit of, offline kind of stuff to do that, but it is very possible. So using AI to do it would be honestly my best advice. And I'm positive it can do it in like 30 seconds, like very, very easily. You just giving it instructions and then it's spitting out the file for you. All right, next question. For NFL Showdown on DK, is it possible to upload captain min-max exposures as well as flex min-max exposures? If so, how can I do that? When I upload my adjustments, it only changes the captain, not the flex. So you cannot do this at the moment. It is not working correctly. We've had a couple requests for min and max exposure upload for captain. I've actually taken it back to the team personally myself. So I've made that request known and made the team aware of it, but I would be happy to mention it again. So right now, with regard to Showdown, and we're just hopping over to an MLB Showdown. So you can upload projections. Make sure these are the flex projections. They will auto get multiplied. So we just have a 1.5x multiplier for captain. So just upload your flex projections. You can upload regular ownership, so flex ownership or util, and captain ownership. One note is do these separately. So don't have name and then ownership and then captain all in the same upload. I don't know if that works. I've had more success doing them individually. So I'll just do name and then ownership, and then I'll do name and then captain ownership in 2 separate uploads. So you could try doing it all together, but if that doesn't work, just do them separately and it should work fine. You cannot do min and max exposures for both captain and utility. It sounds like they're only going to captain, which I didn't even I didn't know they went there specifically, but if that's the case, so be it. So I will mention it again to the team, and then hopefully we can just apply the same fix, at least that ownership has, and apply that to exposures. All right, next question. How do you use the same lineups across multiple contests? Example, I build 20 lineups that I want to use for 320 max contests rather than 60 uniques. Okay, so this is just a, let's say you load up, your contest. SaberSim is going to default your group for your contest to being, 1 lineup per entry. All you got to do is just change this number. So just change the lineups from 60 to 20, and then it will give you your 20 lineups, and then you can save it to those contests. So all it is just changing the lineups here, and then you should be all set. All right. Next question. How would you go about satellites that are winner take alls? I've been running a different build as I don't mind if the lineups are copied. Would it be better to use templates? Yeah, I would use templates. I would leave it all in the same build. I would give them their own group. So like we have single entries, right? We have GPPs with 2 or more lineups. We have our cash. I would have a satellite one too. And just say, create a group. I would group my satellites personally. And then just say type is satellite, or I would say, or percent to first equals 100, right? Like a winner take all might not be called a satellite. So then this would cover winner take alls and satellites. If you have custom satellites, the 100% to first will still cover that as well. So I would just have a template like this, call it satellites, let's call it sats, and then just kind of add it to my running list here, right? The different ways that like I'm breaking out my contests. But I think that this would work great. Some people like to use a smaller number of lineups, right? They'd be like, hey, if I have 20 satellites, I want to use 10 lineups and use them twice. Okay, you can totally do that, right? So just change the number of lineups. That's another good reason for like grouping them all together, right? You can just kind of handle them all at the same time. So that's what I would be doing for satellites. I think that will work just fine. Another consideration, along the satellite thing is potentially turning off the avoid duplicates across lineup groups, right? So like if you're playing GPPs and satellites, but like if this is on, right, those lineups that were used in the higher groups are not going to be used again. So like say I have 2 groups. If this is on, this avoid duplicates across lineup groups, the 10 lineups that go into the top group cannot be used in any lower listed group. Well, what if you're playing like a GPP and then some satellites? You're like, you know what? I don't mind if my GPP's lineups go into my satellites, right? Okay, well then, turn this off, and then it will allow those lineups to be used again as needed. So I kind of like having it off personally, allow for some overlap as warranted by the sims. So that's just my opinion. All right, taking a look here. Looks like we're all caught up in office hours and YouTube. So appreciate you guys, appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday for our next show. So until then, everybody, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.